After losing my baby, I discovered the unexpected strength to escape from years of abusive silence. In a town where the sun seemed to rise and set on community potlucks and neighborly smiles, Sarah felt as though she was drowning. The loss of her newborn son, a tragic result of negligence, ripped the heart from her chest. Grief wrapped around her like a cold shroud as she navigated through the familiar streets of her childhood, now transformed into a landscape of whispers and half-glances. Instead of the heartfelt embraces she craved, she faced stares filled with pity as her laughter faded into the silence of loss. The bright colors of Main Street felt dim and gray. "What happened to you?" some would ask, but their words were daggers rather than offers of support. Sarah's grief was unbearable. Every shift at the diner served as a reminder of normalcy that shattered against the harsh wall of reality. The clatter of dishes echoed like ghosts of her past, intertwined with memories of her husband Mark's dismissive comments. "Don't be so sensitive," he'd say, pinching her heart just a bit tighter. Years of emotional suffocation threatened to consume her, leaving her feeling trapped in a maze of sorrow and silence. She felt like a forgotten shadow. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, Sarah found herself at a community gathering. The air buzzed with laughter, but she could not shake off the weight of her sadness. Suddenly, a woman with warm eyes approached her. "You've been in my thoughts, Sarah," Linda said, a local veteran turned community leader, her voice steady and inviting. "I see you're carrying something heavy." For the first time, someone recognized the turmoil within her. It was a simple acknowledgement that ignited a glimmer of hope in Sarah's chest. Linda listened as Sarah spoke of her loss, the dam within her finally bursting. The tears flowed freely, washing away months of heaviness. "We all carry burdens," Linda said, "but you don't have to do it alone. Your story matters." Her words were a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, and in that moment, Sarah felt a flicker of strength. Together, they began to gather other mothers, women who shared tales of heartache and healing, creating a circle of truth that shattered the suffocating silence. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Yet as Sarah found her voice, Mark's dark shadow loomed larger. He was furious, threatened by the transparency she sought. "You'll ruin everything," he spat, inciting waves of panic in her heart. The community, which had once welcomed her, now felt like an enemy. Remarks behind her back stung, but she stood steadfast, fueled by an unexpected fierceness. Each revelation about the negligence that stole her child's life pushed her closer to emancipation from that oppressive silence. As the walls around her grew higher, Sarah faced a choice. Would she retreat back into submission, or would she break the chains of her past? Standing before Mark, she could see the fear flickering in his eyes. The question loomed between them. Was she ready to embrace the power of her truth? The silence in her heart began to crack, a promise of the freedom that awaited if only she dared to speak. In the days that followed, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Every moment felt charged with a tension she hadn't before recognized. Each shared story with the other mothers empowered her, yet each encounter with Mark brought her doubts bubbling back to the surface. Facing him was like staring into the eye of a storm. She was unraveling, but beneath the weight of her grief and fear lay a resolve she had never tapped into before. One chilly afternoon, Sarah stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, staring at her reflection. The dark circles under her eyes harbored layers of pain, yet something new flickered in her gaze. It was defiance. "You're not powerless," she whispered to herself. The words hung in the air, almost foreign and bold. She put on a simple cardigan, a small act of preparing for battle, and made her way to a community meeting that evening. When she arrived, the familiar faces greeted her with warm smiles, but she couldn't shake the unease of Mark's looming presence. Even in the glow of the room, filled with laughter and shared experiences, she could feel his tension lingering somewhere just outside the door, waiting for her. But Linda was there, her steadfast support evident, encouraging Sarah to take the floor. The women gathered, all eyes on her. Taking a deep breath, Sarah began to share her truth, her voice shaking at first. "I lost my son due to someone's negligence." The room fell silent. Every pair of eyes locked on her. The vulnerability of that moment opened a floodgate of empathy. This wasn't just her story. It became a shared experience of motherhood, loss, and triumph over silent suffering. With every word, she felt chains of despair slowly falling away. Mark's face had darkened, his jaw clenched as he watched from the edge of the room, but she pressed on. "For too long, I've hidden in the shadows. I refuse to let shame define me any longer." As Sarah spoke, it was like layers of fog were lifting. The room filled with the sound of supportive murmurs, affirmations of her bravery echoing against the walls. She felt lighter, as if she had been reborn amid the ashes of her former self. But beneath that lightness, anxiety had begun to surge. She could feel Mark's rage like an electric current, crackling against the peace she was trying to build. When she finally stepped down amid tears and applause, Sarah spotted him standing in the doorway, the storm now unleashed in his eyes. "Is this how you want to play it?" he hissed, anger laced through his voice, the words a chilling reminder of how far he would go to silence her. "You think this is over?" At that moment, she knew she was standing on the precipice of change, her heart racing with fear and determination. Could she really forge a new path, or would he drag her back into the shadows? For the first time in a long time, Sarah didn't feel like crying. Instead, she felt a surge of adrenaline, the thrill of defiance igniting a fire inside her. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady. "This is just the beginning." And with that, the question lingered in the air. Would Sarah find the strength to continue fighting, or would the storm that Mark brought threaten to strip away everything she had just reclaimed? The air was thick with tension as Sarah stepped away from Mark, feeling as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted. His eyes, dark pools of rage, seemed to draw her in, but she turned, determined to leave that storm behind. Linda's hand found her shoulder, a grounding presence amidst the chaos. "Let us get out of here," Linda urged, her voice low but fierce. Sarah nodded, heart pounding, and together they navigated through the crowded room, the weight of the supportive glances almost buoying her onward. Still, each step away from Mark felt like a declaration of war against the silence he had wrapped around her for so long. Outside, the night air was brisk, but it soothed her overheated skin. They walked in silence for a moment, allowing the cool breeze to wash over them. The stars flickered above, and Sarah took a deep breath, trying to gather her scattered thoughts. "Are you okay?" Linda finally asked, her concern palpable. "I think I'm ready," Sarah said, the words surprising her. It was as if saying them made them real. "I need to focus on me, on my healing." Linda smiled, her eyes sparkling with pride. "You've taken a big step. I'm proud of you." As they reached Linda's car, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She hesitated, a knot forming in her stomach. Would it be Mark? Or the barrage of emotions she was trying to fend off? But when she pulled it out, her heart sank. It was a text from her sister. "Mom's in town. She wants to see you." Dread seeped into her chest. Their relationship had always been strained, especially after her son's death. Her mother's inability to communicate, let alone support, left Sarah feeling even more isolated. "Hey, you alright?" Linda asked, noticing the change in her demeanor. Sarah looked up, meeting Linda's gaze. "I don't know if I can face her. Not now. Not when I'm still trying to figure everything out." "Hey, you get to decide who you let in," Linda reassured her. "And nobody can push you into anything you're not ready for." That gave Sarah a glimmer of hope, yet a familiar doubt bubbled up. What if she would always be stuck in the shadows? What if Mark found a way to control her again? "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said hesitantly. "Of course. What if I don't have the strength to carry this through?" Linda turned, giving her full attention. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet resolve. You just took a huge step tonight. You found your voice. That matters. Sarah nodded. She could feel a small flicker of hope deep inside her. Maybe she could learn to trust that voice. Are you coming with me? She asked, surprising herself again. Taking the initial steps alone was daunting, but she knew she didn't have to face everything by herself. Absolutely. I've got your back, Linda promised, her smile unwavering. As they drove towards her mother's hotel, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a visit. It felt like another test. Could she stand firm, even in the face of her past? But as they approached the hotel, her heart clenched with apprehension. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. This time, when she looked down, her heart dropped. It's Mark, she whispered, a chill running through her. What did he say? Linda asked, leaning forward, concern etched on her face. Sarah swallowed hard, reading the message that flashed across the screen. You can't walk away from me. You know I want to let you. As she processed the words, a cold wave of fear washed over her, threatening to extinguish the light she had just begun to kindle. Linda, what do I do? Sarah asked, her voice trembling. And as she gripped the phone, the fight inside her flared again. She had come too far to turn back now. But could she really stand her ground? Sarah stared at the screen, the stark words pulsing like a heartbeat in her hand. Panic clawed at her throat, but beneath that, a different feeling stirred. A defiance that had been buried for too long. Don't respond, Linda said, her voice firm but soothing. You don't owe him any explanation. This is about you.
Keep your focus on that.
I feel like I'm in a chokehold, Sarah admitted, the fear spilling out in a whisper. Like I'm trapped, and every time I think I can break free, he pulls me back. Linda's hand squeezed her shoulder. You're not trapped anymore, she insisted, her tone unwavering. You're making choices now. You walked away from him tonight, and that's a huge deal. You're not that girl who lets others dictate her life. With each word, Sarah breathed a little deeper. The shadows that always hovered felt just a bit lighter. I don't even know what I want anymore, she said, her voice quaking. That's okay, Linda replied, glancing at her as she kept her eyes on the road. You'll figure it out. One step at a time. Let us just get through tonight, all right? As they pulled into the hotel parking lot, Sarah caught sight of the large lit sign that read welcome in gaudy neon letters. It felt mocking, like a cruel twist of fate. For so long, she had wanted this moment to be different, a homecoming of sorts. Instead, it was yet another confrontation with a past she didn't want to revisit. Just remember, Linda said, stopping the car. You are not alone. You have the power to decide how this conversation goes. And if you want to walk away, we can do that too. All right, Sarah nodded, shakily pulling her phone from her lap and silencing it. She didn't need to see another message lighting up her screen, each notification like a tiny blade. As they walked into the hotel lobby, the air felt thick with anxiety. They approached the check-in counter, and Sarah's stomach churned. Can I help you? The clerk asked, a friendly smile on his face. Sarah managed a small nod. I'm here to see my mom. Oh, Mrs. Thompson? She's in room 204. The mention of her mother's name sent a wave of old, familiar hurt rippling through her. Here she was, fighting to reclaim her life, while the woman who gave birth to her felt like a ghost looming in the shadows. Let us go, Linda encouraged. Together, they stepped towards the elevator. Sarah felt each moment stretch. With every ding of the buttons, her heart raced faster. Let us just take a breath, Linda said softly, almost as if reading her thoughts. This is just a conversation. You're the one in control. When the doors opened on the second floor, Sarah stepped out, her feet like lead weights. But she was determined to keep moving. As she approached room 204, she hesitated. Her hand hovered over the door handle. What if she's just as cold as before? Sarah whispered, fear creeping back. Then you'll know how to handle it. You've come so far. Taking another deep breath, Sarah turned the knob and stepped inside. The moment the door creaked open, She was engulfed by the scent of her mother's perfume, familiar yet suffocating. "Sarah!" her mother exclaimed, surprise filling the air. But Sarah was frozen. The moment felt monumental, a collision of past wounds and uncharted territories. "What if I can't do this?" Sarah thought, her heart pounding. And just as the silence stretched between them, Sarah had to remind herself of the one choice that mattered. To stand tall, voice steady, ready to reclaim her story. But as her mother's gaze pierced through her, a single thought conquered her mind. Would she finally find the strength to confront her past? The air crackled with unspoken tension as Sarah's eyes met her mother's. The retro wallpaper seemed to close in around her, a soft reminder of childhood, but instead, it felt like a prison now. She fought the urge to retreat, to let old fears chain her once more. "Sarah?" Her mother's voice broke the silence, laced with confusion. "You look different." "Yeah, well, I am different," Sarah replied, surprising herself with the fire in her tone. Linda had said it first. She wasn't that girl anymore. Her mother's brows knit together, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes.
What do you mean by that?
Sarah clenched her fists, the weight of years spent hiding her truth rushing to the forefront. "I mean, I'm not going to let you treat me like I'm invisible anymore. I'm not a child looking for your approval." The silence that followed felt heavy, almost suffocating. Sarah could feel the familiar sting of rejection crawl up her spine, but she pushed it away. "I came here because I need to talk about us. About what happened. What you did." A flicker of something, fear? Guilt? Passed across her mother's face. But instead of breaking eye contact, Sarah stepped forward, reclaiming her space. "I deserve to express how I feel, and I need you to listen." Her mother took a hesitant breath, her shoulders stiff. "This isn't the time, Sarah," she whispered. "No, it is. It's past time." Sarah's voice rose, fierce and resolute. "You can't keep sweeping things under the rug.
It's not just about you.
It's about how your choices left scars on me. I want to heal." A tear rolled down her mother's cheek, but rather than softening Sarah's heart, it fueled her determination. "We can't heal if we ignore it," Sarah pressed, her voice trembling slightly, but with strength underlying every word. "I've tried to forget, but it always comes back. I want to know why you didn't fight to keep us together." Her mother's expression turned sorrowful. "I thought you'd be better off." The old wounds throbbed, angry and raw. "Better off how? By pretending I never existed? By making me feel ashamed for being who I am?" "Sarah." Her mother reached out, but Sarah took a step back, refusing the comfort that had never been truly offered.
"Don't."
Sarah gasped, grasping for control. "This isn't about you trying to make things better. This is about facing the truth." The revelation rolled off her tongue, harsh yet liberating. For the first time, her mother didn't look like the omnipotent force of her childhood. Instead, she appeared smaller, a woman stripped of her defenses. The dynamic they had was shifting, a moment of vulnerability unfolding in the stale hotel room. "Do you even know what it was like for me, Sarah?" her mother finally said, her voice quavering.
"No."
"No, I don't. And maybe I need to understand," Sarah replied, her heart pounding in her chest. "But we have to talk. Without pretense." For the first time in years, Sarah saw a flicker of hope in her mother's eyes, a yearning that perhaps, just perhaps, this would bring them closer. But uncertainty still loomed. "Can we do this? Can you be honest?" And as the silence lingered, they both stood at the precipice of revelation, the walls of the past threatening to crumble around them. But would knowing the truth be the balm Sarah needed, or would it open old wounds she wasn't ready to face? Sarah's heart raced as she searched her mother's face for some sign of understanding, some indication that her words had reached her. The quiet weight of years lay between them, an invisible barrier forged from unspoken pain and unacknowledged truths. "I thought it was what was best." Her mother's voice trembled. "I did what I thought was right for who?" Sarah interrupted, the anger surging within her like a tide. "You made choices without me. You never thought to ask how I felt. You left me behind." Linda remained quiet, her gaze slipping down, almost ashamed under the barrage of truth slung in the air. I was scared, she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Scared of what? Of being a mother? Of facing the truth? Linda flinched at the sting in Sarah's words.
I
Didn't know how to handle it all. I thought if I let you go, you'd have a better life. Better? You have no idea what that felt like. I'd rather have you yelling at me than nothing at all, Sarah cried, the pain spilling over. The silence hurt more than any fight ever could. A fresh wave of tears streamed down Linda's cheeks, and in that moment, Sarah saw her not as the adult who had failed her, but as a wounded child herself. They were both navigating this sea of regret, scared and lost in their own ways. Can we just start over? Linda's voice cracked, still drenched in sadness, but tinged with hope. I want to try and be better. For you. For us. Start over? After everything? The skepticism seeped into Sarah's voice, a reminder that healing was not a simple path. Yes, I know it won't be easy, her mother said urgently, moving a step closer. But I'm willing to do the work if you are. Would work even be enough? Sarah whispered, a harsh reality echoing in her mind. Was it possible to mend a bond so frayed? The silence stretched, filled with the weight of decisions yet to be made. Sarah felt a flicker of something. Was it resolve? Hope? She wanted more than the emptiness that lingered in their past. But could she take that leap? Tell me the truth. The whole truth, Sarah finally said, her pulse quickening. If we're going to do this, I need to know everything, the why behind your choices, all of it. Her mother inhaled shakily, the tremor of uncertainty returning. It's hard to put into words, but I'll try. As Linda began to unravel the tangled threads of memory, Sarah leaned in closer, her heart racing with anticipation and fear. The truth was daunting enough to shake the very foundations of their relationship, but it might finally be the key to unlocking their future. Would understanding lead to forgiveness? Or would it deepen the wounds that had long since festered? A knot of anxiety twisted in her stomach as she braced for the revelations hidden beneath layers of silence. And in that moment, the hotel room transformed into a place of courage and confrontation. But as her mother's story began to flow, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the truth could change everything, or nothing at all. Would they emerge stronger together, or would this journey only widen the rift that had kept them apart for so long? Linda's voice was barely a whisper, trembling as she began. It all started when I found out I was pregnant with you. I was terrified. Your father and I were young. Foolish, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. Sarah felt a pang of sympathy creep in, but she steeled herself. This wasn't only about her mother's fears. It was about the years of anguish they had both undergone. I thought I could handle it, Linda continued, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. But when you were born, everything changed. I felt like I was drowning under the weight of the responsibility. I was just a kid myself. Sarah leaned in closer, the tide beginning to shift. But you didn't have to do it alone, she said softly. You could turn to me, or someone in our family. There had to be someone. Linda swallowed hard. You don't understand, Sarah. I cut ties with everyone. It was like I was running from not just my past, but from the person I was becoming. I thought if I could just keep you safe. Safe from what? Sarah pressed, emotions tangled within her. From having a real relationship? A real family. Linda sighed deeply. From the same pain I endured. Your father, he wasn't a good man. I thought if I left while I could, maybe you'd grow up without the shadows I dealt with. So, I put you in the system, hoping other families would be better. That's not how it works. Sarah felt her anger flaring again. You gave up on me. You didn't trust me enough to let me be part of that choice. The frustration in Linda's eyes mirrored Sarah's own. I was lost, she said, fighting back the tears. I thought I was protecting you. I thought silence was better than sharing that darkness. But all that did was shove me into my own darkness, Mom. Sarah's voice shook, both with anger and sorrow. You didn't realize I was simply waiting for you to reach out, for you to let me in. The air in the room thickened with unspoken regrets, each woman's hurt lying bare like an open wound. Linda wiped her tears, determination returning to her expression. I know I'm to blame. I was selfish and afraid. I can't change the past, but I want to be here now. I need you to let me try. Sarah's heart raced as she took in her mother's plea. I want to believe you, I do. But how do I know this isn't just a repeat of history? What if we dive into this and you leave again? Linda reached for her, grasping Sarah's hands between her own. I promise to be here, to stick around this time. I want us to rebuild what was lost. But I need you to meet me there. Silence fell again, but this time it hummed with possibility. Sarah felt a warmth creeping in, a cautious flicker of hope. Maybe they could truly start anew. But first, there were layers to peel back, shadows still lurking within their hearts. Tell me about him, Sarah finally said, her voice steadier now. Tell me about the man you were trying to protect me from. What did he do to you? As the question hung in the air, she waited, bracing herself for the deep pain that might come to light. What other truths lay buried, waiting to be unearthed in this fragile moment? The answers could unravel everything or open the door to healing they both desperately needed. Linda took a slow, shuddering breath, her fingers tightening around Sarah's. He was charming at first, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Always had a smile, always knew the right thing to say. But smiles can hide so much. Sarah could feel the tension in the room, the weight of secrets waiting to spill. What changed? She asked, urgency creeping into her tone. He started drinking a lot. Linda paused, her gaze distant, as if the memories were a film she could replay in her mind. His anger always found a way to surface when he drank. I never imagined I'd be on the receiving end. Anger? Sarah echoed, her heart racing. What did he do? Linda winced, a shiver running through her body. It started with words, harsh and cutting. I thought he was just having a bad day. But then those words became something physical. I never knew what I did to provoke him. I felt like I was walking on glass every day, terrified. Sarah's breath hitched, her throat tight. Oh, Mom. Linda shook her head, her tears falling freely now. I was ashamed. I loved him, and somewhere deep down, I thought I could fix him. That if I just did everything right, he'd stop. There was a long pause, filled with the weight of a painful truth. So I kept you away from him. I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. The air felt electric, and Sarah searched her mother's eyes. But it wasn't he safe for you, was it? No, Linda admitted, her voice breaking. I let fear rule my life. I put that fear on you, without even realizing it. When I had to face the truth that I could lose you, it paralyzed me. So I thought of a system as a way out for both of us. Didn't you see the irony in that? Sarah said, her own pain cascading into the open. You thought you could save me by putting me in a system that only left me feeling lost and alone. Linda nodded, her eyes filled with remorse. I thought it was the right choice when it was the hardest thing I ever did. I only wanted to break the cycle. I had no idea what I was going to lose instead. The room was heavy, the silence wrapping around them like a suffocating hug. Sarah could hardly process all the revelations. She had wanted answers, yet they felt like blades slicing through the scars she had carried her whole life. Were there any happy moments? Sarah asked softly, desperate to hear something, anything that hinted at warmth. Linda's face softened, a flicker of longing crossing her features. There were. For a little while, before the darkness consumed everything, we laughed and dreamed like every young couple does. We had hopes for the future. I thought we could create a life together. She paused, her voice wobbly. But dreams turned to nightmares. Is that why you never reached out? Sarah pressed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Because you were too afraid? Linda pulled Sarah closer, their foreheads nearly touching. I was empty, Sarah. I was afraid of what he'd do, but I was more afraid of reaching for happiness again and being dragged back into that hell. I didn't believe I could ever truly protect you or myself. Sarah felt her heart aching for her mother, the woman she had blamed, but now understood so much more. As the shadows still lingered, she knew they had to confront the darkness together. "Let us face it," she murmured, willing the last remnants of doubt to fade. "Together." But Linda hesitated, fear flashing across her face. "Are you sure you're ready for that? For everything that comes with it?" Sarah nodded firmly, looking deep into her mother's eyes. "I've waited long enough for this.
It's time we face the reality, Mom.
But we can't do it without knowing everything." Tears welled in Linda's eyes, but there was a sparkle of something else, determination. "Okay," she whispered, taking a breath. "Then let me tell you what happened after you were taken away, the depths I fell into, and how I finally found a way out." Sarah felt a mix of dread and anticipation rise within her. The truth could either shatter them or bond them for life. "I'm here."
Just tell me.
As Linda began to speak, Sarah braced herself. What would she hear? Would the pieces of their shattered lives be enough to finally construct something whole? Linda closed her eyes for a moment, letting the memories wash over her like a tide too powerful to resist. "When they took you away," she started, her voice trembling, "I felt like my heart was ripped from my chest. The silence in our home, it was deafening. I thought I'd never hear your laughter again." Sarah felt a shiver run through her spine, wondering about the emptiness her mother described.
What did you do after that?
She asked gently, desperate to understand the depth of her mother's pain. "I went home and just sat there. The walls seemed to close in, and I was left with nothing but my guilt and shame. I thought about you all the time. Did you cry for me? Did you feel abandoned?" Linda's voice cracked, and Sarah could see the weight of that question hanging over them.
"I did, Mom."
"I was lost," Sarah admitted, her breath catching. "Sometimes I still wonder if it was my fault."
No.
"No, never," Linda rushed to correct her, squeezing Sarah's hand tighter. "It was never your fault. I was the one who failed us both. I let him harm me, and in doing so, I let it hurt you too. I thought keeping you away was saving you, but all I did was abandon the both of us." Linda swallowed hard, and Sarah could see the shadows of the past reflected in her mother's eyes. "In those first few months, I fell into a kind of numbness. I barely left the house. I couldn't face anyone. I was a ghost of myself. But then something changed. I hit rock bottom." "What do you mean?" Sarah whispered, her heart pounding. "I turned to alcohol, too," Linda confessed, her words tumbling out like spilled marbles. "It felt like an escape, like a way to drown out the screams in my head. I thought, if I could just forget, but it only buried me deeper." Sarah's heart sank. "Mom, you didn't deserve that." "No," Linda replied, her eyes glaring into the distance. "But I couldn't see another way out. I was lost in a cycle of despair, believing I was not worthy of happiness. I isolated myself, convinced everyone was better off without me." A heavy silence settled in the air, both of them grappling with the truth they had uncovered. Finally, Linda continued, her voice gaining strength. "But one night, it all changed. I was sitting alone in the dark when I saw your baby pictures scattered around the floor." Sarah's breath hitched at the thought of her mother surrounded by memories of her youth, their shared laughter and dreams. "What happened next?" she asked, urgency spilling into her words. "I saw you, Sarah, the girl I had hoped you would become. And suddenly, I felt something, an ember of determination. I realized I wanted to fight for us. I wanted to break the damned cycle once and for all," Linda said fiercely, new strength lighting up her gaze. "That night, I called a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. I told her everything, and she helped me get the support I needed." Linda paused, and the tears in her eyes seemed to reflect both anguish and hope. "I signed up for counseling, started attending support groups. It was the hardest thing, facing everything I had avoided for so long. But little by little, I began to take my life back. I learned to speak up, to reclaim my voice. And in doing that, I started to feel alive again." Each word hung between them like a promise unspoken. Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of compassion for this woman who had been both lost and fighting for them both. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she whispered, feeling the enormity of their shared journey. "I'm proud of us," Linda replied, her voice a touch stronger now. But the road was still long, and it wasn't over yet. There was still one more dark chapter one had to face. Sarah leaned closer, her heart racing again. What could possibly come next? How much more of the truth remained hidden? She couldn't shake the feeling that it was about to unveil itself in a way that would change everything once again. Linda's voice trembled as she spoke, struggling with the weight of her memories. "After I started to heal, I knew I couldn't just move on without confronting the past. There was unfinished business, the truth I still had to face about your father." Sarah felt chills creep down her spine. "What do you mean?" With a deep breath, Linda began to recount her story. "The night of the worst fight, it was the moment I finally realized I had to choose. I remember being exhausted, both physically and emotionally. The weight of everything had become unbearable." He was angry again, and I could feel the tension crackling in the air like electricity. As Linda spoke, Sarah gripped her mother's hand tightly, ready to hear the truth that had been cloaked in shadows for so long. "He came home late, and I knew—" Linda paused, her voice thick with emotion.
"I knew it would end badly."
"I was terrified." He started yelling, and the words he used cut deep, slicing through every ounce of love I thought we had left. I begged him to stop, to leave, to let me go. A shudder ran through Linda, and Sarah squeezed her hand tighter. "You don't have to relive it if it's too hard," she said gently. "No, I need to share this," Linda insisted, her eyes fierce with determination now. "I won't hide anymore. I didn't just freeze because of fear. I froze because a part of me thought it was my fault, that I deserved what was happening. I had convinced myself I failed you, and I deserved all that pain." Sarah swallowed hard, fighting back tears at the thought of her mother punishing herself for a choice that had never been hers to make. "You didn't fail me, Mom." That night, as he became more violent, something shifted within me. I realized that every moment I stayed, I was giving him more control. "I saw the fear in your eyes, even if you weren't there. I knew I couldn't let that cycle continue. I had to break the chains, not just for me, but for you too."
"So I fought back."
Her voice quivered, but conviction surged through her words. "I pushed him away, daring to speak up for once. I won't be silent anymore," I yelled. It was like a floodgate opened, letting out years of suppressed rage and heartbreak. In that moment, I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was fighting for you. For our future.
And it was terrifying.
Sarah could feel her heart racing. "What happened?" Linda took another shaky breath. "He came after me, but this time I didn't flinch. Something broke inside him. The rage turned into shock, and then something shifted. He backed off. I took that chance to grab my things and leave. Running toward my only hope, I reached out to my parents, the ones I had abandoned too, and admitted everything I'd done." Tears streamed down Linda's face, the memories raw. "I woke up the next morning unsure if I'd be safe, but it was the first moment I knew I was no longer trapped. I was finally taking control." "That's amazing," Sarah gasped, admiration spilling over as she could finally see her mom as the warrior she was. But it wasn't easy. The fears didn't just vanish. I had to fight against the doubts that echoed in my mind. I had to rebuild what I had lost, but I kept going because I knew I had you, my daughter, to think of. Silence enveloped the room, filled only by the weight of newfound understanding. "Do you think you were ready to be a mother again?" Sarah asked, her voice a whisper. Linda looked deep into Sarah's eyes. "I am ready now, ready to keep fighting for us. I promise to be a better mother, to communicate openly, to never let fear dictate my actions again." A wave of warmth washed over Sarah. "And I promise to keep fighting for us too, to relearn what it means to trust." They embraced, two souls intertwining amidst the unraveling truths, a new bond resurfacing from an ocean of pain. As they stepped back from the embrace, a renewed energy sparked between them. "What's next for us?" Sarah asked, a hesitant smile forming on her lips. "Together," Linda said, her voice laced with conviction. "We'll take this one day at a time, through the healing, through the conversations. I want to be there. For everything you do. Leave it behind?
Yes.
Trust?
Yes.
Slowly but surely, they could rebuild. And as the light flooded in through the window, illuminating the room, Sarah felt the weight of the past lift from her shoulders. She wasn't just walking away from the shadows, she was stepping into the light. Together, they stood stronger, hearts entwined like the roots of a mighty tree, a legacy of strength, healing, and renewal. This is the moment when the past no longer defines them. Now it was time to share their story with the world, to help others remember that healing is possible and they are not alone. And if you feel inspired by Sarah and Linda's journey, this is your chance to join a community of strength and support. You need to subscribe now to stay connected with these exclusive stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and spread the empowerment. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this incredible transformation. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see these stories of resilience and hope. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together through every battle. Let's build something amazing.